Hello everybody! In a previous video, I mentioned my experience living in Russia as an American. Today I want to tell you about another country that I've lived in. After living in Russia for about a year, I and my girlfriend, now my wife, made the decision to move to another country. As we thought about where we could go, we had to think about visas and entry requirements for US and Russian citizens. There didn't seem to be very many places where we could go and stay long term. I could have just continued living in Russia with my tourist visa, but I had to leave the country once every 6 months, which was a pain in the neck. We couldn't live anywhere in Western Europe because we could only stay for 3 months and then we'd have to leave for 3 months. We couldn't live in the US because my girlfriend didn't have a visa and there was no guarantee that she'd be able to get one. But there was one country that stood out among the rest. One of the few countries that both Americans and Russians can visit without a visa is Georgia. After entering the country, you can stay for essentially a whole year. Then you can cross any border, come straight back, and stay for another year. It's a country with a low cost of living, perfect for freelancers like me. They speak a fascinating language, which is always a big plus as far as I'm concerned, and they have a mild climate. We were in love with the idea the moment we thought of it. So we carefully planned our move, and in the summer of 2018, we were off to Batumi, Georgia. On our first day in Batumi, we went to a restaurant to try some of that khachapuri that we'd kept hearing about. The waitress unexpectedly poured us a couple glasses of white wine to welcome us to the country. Somehow she must have known it was our first day. In America, if you forget your ID, then sorry, no alcohol for you. But in Georgia, not only did they not ask for our IDs, they sometimes just gave us drinks without us even asking for them. The next item on the agenda was to go to the beach. Batumi is on the coast of the Black Sea, between Turkey and Russia. I found it kind of unusual that the beach was covered in rocks instead of sand. It's really hard to walk on without shoes, but with shoes on, it's not that bad. Within a few days, we managed to find an apartment and got settled into our new home. For only $300 a month, we were able to live in a new apartment building in the center of town with a perfect view of the city skyline and the Black Sea. It was probably more than the average Georgian pays for their apartment, but I was happy to pay that much. Taxis were also pretty cheap. We could get to the other side of town for less than $1. You could have a 3-course meal for two for about $20. We could afford to go on vacation to Europe 3 times a year. We weren't even really trying to save money, yet our savings grew and grew. It was great. Once in a while, as we were gradually trudging through the arduous process of getting my wife a spouse visa to come to the US, we would stop and think, wait, why are we leaving this perfect place again? I hadn't seen my family in over 3 years, and I wanted them to finally meet my wife, so that was the reason. Living next to the Black Sea, we saw certain animals for the first time, which was kind of cool. On warm summer days when the sea wasn't too stormy, we saw jellyfish swimming around. Some were about the size of a baseball, didn't have any tentacles, and looked like overgrown contact lenses. Others were a little bigger and had tentacles, and those ones I would describe as ghostly basketball chandeliers. Once we went on a boat ride and saw a bunch of little gray dolphins jumping out of the water to get some fresh air. In the streets of the city, there were tons of stray dogs and cats. The dogs all had these tags on their ears, and I presume that they were all neutered and vaccinated. There were lots of these little dog houses and bowls of food put out for them. They were very friendly, and people would pet them. They were just the city dogs. One such dog even went viral on YouTube. Once I was scrolling my news feed on Facebook and saw a video that one of my friends had posted, who had no connection to Georgia whatsoever. It was of a dog barking at cars and helping kids cross the street. I thought to myself, I know that crosswalk. It was in Batumi, and I had crossed there many times before. Another thing we liked about Georgia was how simple certain things were. We didn't even realize just how much easier it is to do certain things there until we moved to the US. About a month after arriving in Georgia, we decided to get married. We could have gotten married in Russia, but then I, as a foreigner, would have had to go all the way to Moscow, fill out some documents, set a date at the marriage hall for 2 months later, etc., etc. In Batumi, all you have to do is show up at the town hall with your 2 witnesses, take a number, sign some documents, and boom, you're married. After we got our marriage certificate, we went outside and we were like, so do we put our rings on now, or how does this work? We didn't feel married, so we contacted this lady that does marriage ceremonies, and she put together a really nice one with a big flowery arch and rings and vows and big feather pens and everything. Then we felt like we were married. Another thing that was simpler for us there was healthcare. We could walk into any clinic and book an appointment with any specialist whenever we wanted. It was never so expensive for us that we couldn't pay out of pocket. Also, whenever I wanted new contacts, I could just walk into any optics store and buy any contacts I wanted. I could just buy a single lens or the whole box. It didn't matter. I didn't even need to show them that I had a prescription. Whenever we wanted to move to another apartment, we could always find one that was fully furnished. When we wanted a cat, all we had to do was go outside and pick one. The day of our train ride up to the capital, Tbilisi, I took our cat to the vet clinic to have him vaccinated. I said to the secretary, he needs all of his vaccinations, but there is one little problem. Georgian Railway requires all animals to have had their vaccinations 2 weeks before boarding, and my train is tonight. The secretary was like, that's okay, we can make that happen. And just like that, they turned back time and vaccinated my cat 2 weeks prior to our trip, fully documented in his pet passport. I'd witnessed a miracle. But I must say that all this simplicity and lack of bureaucracy came to a screeching halt the moment COVID hit. Stores and banks reduced their hours, leading to very long lines, and sometimes we couldn't get in at all. They instituted a nationwide curfew of 9 o'clock p.m. If anyone was found outside after that time, they would be given a fine. One day they actually banned traffic altogether, which was kind of cool as a pedestrian. These restrictions really complicated things when we were at the end of my wife's visa process. When her visa interview at the US Embassy in Tbilisi was finally scheduled, we packed up some of our things, took our cat to the vet to be vaccinated 2 weeks prior, and headed down to the train station. After my wife's interview in Tbilisi, we thought she'd get her passport back with her visa within about a week, but it ended up taking much longer than we'd expected. We just sat there in Tbilisi for months waiting for a response from the embassy. In December, her visa was finally ready, but by then, all transportation between cities had been banned. There were no planes, trains, buses, or anything, so we didn't know how we were going to get back to Batumi to pack up the rest of our stuff. On top of that, there were no flights out of the country at all, so we had to come up with this big elaborate plan to take a taxi all the way to Batumi, pack up the rest of our stuff, take another taxi to the border with Turkey, cross the border, take a bus over all the way to a city in Turkey that has an airport, and then fly to America. Luckily, some flights out of Tbilisi did start to appear. So we took a taxi from Tbilisi all the way to Batumi, packed up the rest of our stuff, turned in our keys, and had that same driver take us back to Tbilisi. Our flight was in the middle of the night, but we had to be there before curfew. As soon as we arrived at the airport, I got an email that said that as of such and such a date, all passengers on Turkish Airlines must have a negative COVID test to fly. Great, thanks for that. And that was my birthday. I mean, come on. So we missed our flight and we were stuck at the airport all night and had nothing else to do besides call Turkish Airlines again and again and again and again. Anyways, it was a big mess, but I'm here now. That's about it for this video. Later I'll make a video about what it was like to move back home after having been away for so long, and what my wife's first impressions of the US were after coming here for the first time. Check me out on Italki if you want to learn either English or Russian, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!